Game Plan for Good is the podcast that brings you stories of world shakers and champions of change. Join us as we dive into the journeys of innovative business leaders who are making a positive impact and creating a better world. Uncover their game plans for success, discover groundbreaking innovations, and be inspired to unleash your own potential. Get ready for a brighter future in business with Game Plan for Good. Hello, welcome to Game Plan for Good. We have a very important and a great episode coming up. We have Michael Hosking here. Michael, how are you doing?
I'm well, thank you. Well, Shad.
Good. Michael Hosking is from ABC. Can you tell me what ABC stands for?
Yes, ABC actually stands for Africa Business Community. It's a name that we felt would be appropriate to put to the work we're doing in Africa now, which is trying to establish programs of microfinance in various sub-Saharan African countries.
Can you explain what microfinance is?
Yes, it's really a program whereby we train people on how to begin their own small businesses, whereby we have a manager who oversees everything, and they help the people who want to start a small business fill out a small business plan, which we have a pro forma for them to fill out, to think about how they're going to start from the beginning a business of their own, who don't have any security, don't have any financials behind them, but are willing to work hard to start a small business of their own in these countries in sub-Saharan Africa.
Yeah, and look, that sounds awesome, and I know because I've heard some of the stories before.
Yep.
And we're going to have a look at some of those success stories. But usually at the end, what we would do is would ask, how can people support you, because you're about to embark on another journey to Africa to do this work as well. So we want to get that in at the start now. How can people support, because you're leaving on Monday, right?
I'm leaving Monday. Yes, leaving Monday and flying into South Africa and then on to Bulawayo, which is the base for our work in Zimbabwe. So we're going to Zimbabwe for about a week and a half and then travelling on to Malawi for a week and a half, which are in fact two of the poorest countries in the world today. And that's where we'll actually be continuing on with the work that we have already started in Zimbabwe. We planted the program of microfinance in 2010. And it's been coming along well, but we don't have the finances to continue granting people small loans. An average loan, $300, $400 would get a person or a team of persons ready to be able to start this small business.
And so how can people help? How can they help now?
Well, we have a website, and it's known as libertyworldmissions.org.au, and it contains a section there to explain the work of ABC, Africa Business Community. So it's a subsection of that website. And on that subsection, it would have the banking details there for contributing to the work we do in Africa in this microfinance
Fantastic.
program.
And you mentioned $300 is enough to get a new business started. Is that are you asking for amounts of 300 or a smaller amounts okay to donate?
Absolutely. Any amount helps. Every amount helps. Any $100 helps toward starting a business. The average business would be probably more like 300 to 400 Aussie dollars to get going these days, because inflation has really been a problem in those countries. Hyperinflation, actually. Zimbabwe has currently got 670% inflation. So we need to then just up our loan contributions to those people so they can start a small business. But they start with basic materials, and they're happy to start small. We don't despise the small beginnings. So that's really $300 to $400, but people can contribute whatever they want. It all goes toward helping the applicants for our loans. In essence, 80% of them are single mothers who want to feed their children and send them to school. Because they otherwise have to teach their children to sleep on their stomachs to take away the hunger pains, which is not really fair in a country or countries where there's such rich mineral resources. That doesn't flow through the people. It flows other ways. So to help people on the ground to actually stop that hunger continuing, microfinance, really, we've discovered, is an answer which works. And it's not just in Africa, it's in other countries around the world as well. But our focus, our patch is in sub-Saharan, central southern Africa. We've been into, Richard, my partner in this work, Richard Kerridge, he's been into nearly 15 African countries over 20 years. And, over 20 times he's been to Africa. I've been 6 times. And this, on Monday, will be my 7th trip to Africa.
And you started it in 97?
I started going in 97 to Africa, but we didn't start the microfinance program until 2010, which was my 5th trip.
Yeah.
So we realised that we had to do something, because it's all very well to help build an orphanage or to help give a few gifts here and there, but you have to help them help themselves. And microfinance is really the answer, we've discovered. So we wrote the program ourselves. Even though we tried to get help from a few MFIs, microfinance institutions in Australia, they couldn't give us any help because they said it's protected software. It's intellectual property. So they said, sorry, we can't help you. So Richard Kerridge and I sat down and we wrote the program ourselves, which has been working since 2010. We've already have about 20 businesses in Zimbabwe, 4 in Kenya, and about 6 in Tanzania. But we had an original donation of $5,000 back in 2010, and of course that's gone now. And the loans are repaid. The people meet once a week or once a fortnight with the team manager, the program manager, to repay at $5, $10 a week.
Yeah.
And then when that loan's repaid, then that money is recycled to another person.
Wow.
Okay.
That's amazing. And I know you've got, I do want to get to these success stories because they're very, very interesting. But for people that haven't been to Africa, what is it like? Like, what do you, when you land there, what do you hear? What do you smell? What are your senses doing? And what's the experience with the people? Just to give people more of a sensory idea of the experiences you've had.
Well, yeah, I've actually written my book on this. I've written my book about my time in the Vietnam War. And as a Vietnam veteran and recovering from some PTSD, I realised it's time to give back. And so when I landed in Africa the first time, I was shocked by the dust, the dirt, the desperation around the place. Everyone scrambling to try and get your attention, to see if you can help them, see if you have any money for them, whether to buy their product or just to give them a small gift or a loan. Everywhere on each side of me there was poverty, and you think, this is overwhelming. And so it takes you a couple of days to get over the culture shock of the poverty everywhere, and the squalor, and the lack of order. Everything's just chaotic at times. But the people are friendly, they're happy in their own way. But they struggle with so many problems there. There are endemic problems of political misgovernance, which has gone on for generations. There's corruption everywhere in the forces, etc. There's crime. There's orphans. There's husbands disappearing, just leaving home, leaving the women with their children. And there's lack of food. There's lack of food security.
Yeah.
And if you go into a average supermarket, you'll find half the shelves are empty. And you say, where's the food? Well, it's there. You have to go to the market to find the food. And the prices keep going up, so the people can barely afford the food anymore. And one example is that recently I discovered that a packet of cereal in Zimbabwe would cost you 230,000 Zimbabwe dollars, which is about $20 US.
Wow.
So who can afford a packet of cereal for $20 US? They just don't have that sort of money. They sell bread in packages of 2 slices of in a package, 2 slices in a plastic bag.
Wow.
2 slices of bread for $1 US.
Can I just jump in here? Before, when we were talking, you mentioned that a lot of the people that you see are living on practically $1 a day.
Yep.
And I think even though we had the discussion, it's still, I think, hard to fathom in this sort of civilization that we live in, that they are literally living on $1 a day. Is that
They
right?
are.
Like a lot of them?
Yes, yeah. I think the World Health Organization and other world agencies have estimated there's about 1 billion people around the world live on $1 a day. Another 2 billion people live on $2 a day or less, and another 1 billion people live on $4 a day.
Wow.
So that's 4 billion people.
There's actually a website where, I don't know if you've seen the website, but you can actually, there's a slider, you pull the slider along to the amount of income that you earn, and it tells you what percentage that you live in.
Yep.
And it doesn't take much of an income in terms of Australian standards to get into that top kind of 1, 2, 3%.
Yeah.
Even on, say, the dole, for example, what that gives you takes you up into the highest percentage of earners in the world.
That's right.
So it's quite staggering.
Yeah, that's right. Our average wage, let's say $73,000, in fact, is $200 a day compared to $1 a day. It's a huge disparity. And I know the economy over there is different. It's cheaper. Everything is cheaper to work in, to operate in, but it's still a huge disparity in income stream and in way of life. And part of the problem is that even when children do go to school, a lot of them finish up leaving at about year 7 or 8 to work at home to help support the family.
Yeah.
Because the average woman there, a married woman, is expected tribally to have between 6 and 8 children.
Yeah.
That's a cultural thing. It's the way they have always thought. You have children, you have babies, So there's huge population issues too.
Yeah.
And there's and therefore there's a food shortage. Zimbabwe used to be the food basket of Africa, or the bread basket of Africa. Now it's got 40% of its population is in danger of starvation.
Can I ask you? Could be a personal question, but can you give us an idea of something that you've witnessed that has been very, and I know there's probably many of these stories, but something that you've witnessed that has really made you understand the seriousness of what's happening there?
There are examples of that. I suppose I could say that there are people who actually meet you on the road in from the airport in Nairobi, which is the capital of Kenya. They actually sit by the side of the road and sell bananas. A mother and a grandmother who would run along beside your car trying to sell you a bunch of bananas on the way into the airport, or from the airport into the city. And the traffic is so jammed it's very slow, so they can run beside your car trying to get some bananas into your car.
Yeah.
On another occasion, we were driving through Zimbabwe, and we stopped. There were people selling oranges. They had bags of oranges there in those netting bags, and there was about at least 20 women trying to thrust their bag of oranges into our car window to get one sale for a bag of oranges for about $3. And that would be their day's wage, their day's income, if they made the sale. And only one can get the sale out of 20 people struggling. They were fighting over each other to get their bag of oranges into our car.
Wow. How was your experience since 97 changed you?
Since 97, I've realised that if you have capacity to help, there's ways of giving back to a society that has far less privileges than we have, and lives under incredible pressure to find food for their children each day. And so I've realised that with my experience in life, having survived the Vietnam War and having a family of my own and being able to work and full time, that it's time for me to say, I'll risk the possibilities of danger over there to do what I can in my patch to give back something. You can't help everyone, but you can help some. You can help hundreds, maybe even thousands at a time in each country. And so that I've realised that that's why I've been back 6 times, and I'm going back for the 7th time on Monday to continue the work in Zimbabwe and to plant it properly in Malawi, which is the 7th poorest country in the world. It's just had a cyclone go through there, Cyclone Freddy,
Wow.
and destroyed a lot of their crops. And they mainly subsist, those people, because the goodness in the economy has been sucked out of it by the government. Corruption, unfortunately.
Wow. Now the good news is that you guys have got success stories. So when people do donate, they give money, that it's taking effect.
Yep.
So can you tell us a few of these success stories that you've had?
Yes, there are a number of success stories. I couldn't go through all of them, but there were a couple of sisters who started a hairdressing salon with a comb and a brush and a pair of scissors and a table and a chair under a tree. I think it was an acacia tree. And they started that way, just starting hairdressing. And now they have a salon of their own, the hairdressing salon. And we're actually going back into Zimbabwe to meet them when I go back there next week. We'll be saying hello to them and letting them know we're so proud of them for actually persevering and getting their business running from such a humble beginning.
Because you don't just say, okay, here's some money and here's some, equipment. Like, you actually support them in many ways with material as well, right?
Yep.
And coaching and things like what does that support look like?
Well, we do appoint a manager to oversee the whole program, and he or she would have a team around them, two or three helpers, and they would meet every week to firstly have a chat about how the business is running. Are there any problems? Can we help you with your marketing? Can we help you with your finding supplies of your products, whatever it may be? It may be fruit and veg. They buy wholesale and they sell retail. So that is a weekly meeting with the team, with the business manager, who is appointed by a committee, by the way, of a chairman, a treasurer and a secretary from various community organisations in that township, in Bulawayo, in Gwanda and Bait Bridge, which are 3 towns in Zimbabwe, as well as in Nairobi. So they have that possibility of training beforehand, because we help them fill out a business plan. We've got a 5-page rudimentary business plan that they can think through as they fill it out to work out where they want to have their business, what they like to do, what do they love doing. Whatever you love doing normally is what you're good at. And what you're good at, you normally love doing, and that can be the basis for your business. And who's your partner? Is it your wife, your brother, your sister, your uncle, whoever? Best to have at least 2 in the team of the business team. And they together sit down with the manager of the program and work out and fill out their business plan. And then, once the application is in, and what I say again, 80% are single mothers and their sisters or their uncle and dad, to fill out the application, and then they would be assessed by the committee to be ready for their loan to be given out. Which we send over there when they're set up, when they're ready. We send it over, Western Union, whatever, transfers, into a trust account, which they have to have set up for receiving the funds, with at least 2 signatures to the account. So that's all
all transparent.
Transparent is the word I'm looking for.
All good.
Transparent, so that no dollar goes missing. Every dollar is, then it's repaid. So we make sure, and the manager keeps a spreadsheet of the repayments, and the money goes into the trust account, and then it's recycled to another recipient.
Explain the repayments, because I'm sure some people listening may think, why are you making them repay? These people are, living in a poorer country, and why make them repay? Like, why not? Like, and I know you mentioned what the funds get used for, but why? Why is that important?
Well, it teaches them to be responsible, to know that this isn't like charity, that they actually have to work their business to a point where it's profitable and they can repay it, because then someone else will be the beneficiary of that money once it's repaid, and once there's enough money, another $300, $400 to give out another loan. So they realise it's part of a community, and in the weekly meeting they have with the manager, if one of the people can't repay their $5 or $10 payment, The others in that group who meet have to fork out for them. They have to cover them until they can repay their payment.
Right.
So that everyone is accountable, but they then realise and they pledge to repay the loan when they sign up for it in the first place, right? Because
That's awesome.
There's 300 people already waiting in line for a loan in Zimbabwe right now.
Sounds great. I was just going to say before I mentioned Dr. Mohammed Yunus, who I saw talk years ago on microfinance, and one thing I remember him saying is that a very high percentage of the people that they lent the money to were usually women, and the reason for that is that they found that the main focus of many women in their society in Bangladesh, for example, was obviously very family orientated, whereas they found the men, not in all cases, of course, but they found the men were more likely to be spending the money potentially in other areas, as in, not on the family. The money wouldn't go back into the family unit,
right.
but was the point. So, do you normally lend to a higher percentage of females, or does it vary? Or?
Generally speaking, we would lend to a fairly high percentage of females, single mothers. As I've discovered, single mothers are the ones who really want to work hard to repay their loans. I mean, I've got example here of a lady named Natasha Komba, who was only 34. Her husband left her and she had a child, and so she got a loan of $150 in Tanzania, in Dar es Salaam, and she started a fruit and veggie business. And I've got a photo of her right here, standing at her stall. I don't know whether you'd like me to show it to you.
I'm not sure if the cameras will pick it up from this distance, but
that's okay.
Yep.
So she started that. Now she can send her child to school and feed him 3 meals a day rather than 1 meal a day is all she could afford. So a lot of children do live on 1 meal a day. That's why they go to bed with hunger pains. And that's the tragedy of it all. If we can help dozens and dozens of children to sleep with a tummy with food in it and sleep well, that's part of the joy of working like this and putting up with the dust and the dirt and the discomforts of going over there. To see those success stories, it really does gladden your heart to see.
Can you tell us about the butchers?
Yes, well, that's Teresa and her husband Joseph. She received her money and she actually decided she'd go walk down to the local abattoir and bought a side of beef. And those cows are pretty big. She carried it home on her back, not having a car, to her home in Nairobi, Kenya, and carved it up in the kitchen and took all the, boned it off and put the fresh meat into plastic bags and sold it door to door. To a degree where she made enough profit to buy a delivery van. So that stretched her business further to give deliveries to other suburbs of Nairobi. And now she's just developed a butcher shop, but also that now supports an orphanage of about 300 children.
Wow.
And a school as well.
Wow. So
a school orphanage is supported by one lady deciding she was going to walk to the abattoir with a side of beef on her back and sell it as a butcher. And now it's a butcher shop.
That must be an amazing feeling for yourself and the people that you work with to see that effect of, that one story, but not just that story, but all of the stories from there, all of the benefits for the community.
That's right, yeah.
From that, you would have seen that, I'd imagine, over and over again.
That's right, yeah. And that's why it's called microfinance, because it's only small loans. And most of these people would never get a loan from a bank. Not only because they don't have any credit rating or any security to give to back the loan, but also there's huge queues waiting at the major banks for loans. And they charge huge interest rates, whereas we charge a flat 10%, flat, not compound, so that interest helps to pay for the expenses of the manager who is overall looking after the program. Now, I think it's ideal for him or her also to have their own business. So they're supported as they work around the community, helping everyone else start and maintain their own businesses. So we want to make sure that the manager and his team, her team, would have their own business as well, and their partner, whoever that may be, could continue that business while the manager is working with the other people who are operating their businesses to make sure that they're not having any problems. they have to take out a bank account themselves. They've never had a bank account before, most of them.
Yeah.
But with the loan and with our backing of ABC, they start open a bank account that they can make their banking of their takings every day, so that they're building up their business. But we also tell them two other things. One is don't walk home the same way every night from your business to your bank, because someone could be watching you.
Yeah.
And also to make sure that you keep something there as a way of putting some interest or investment back into the business to expand the business. Maybe it's to buy another table and chair, to start a coffee shop.
Yeah.
Right? Coffee shop on the side of the road. But that's what they need to do to keep expanding the business. And then when some people have actually repaid their loan, we can actually give them another loan to start another business if they want to, because they've shown that they can repay their loan and they're being responsible.
So you're building entrepreneurs.
That's right, yeah.
Now you mentioned, correct me if I'm wrong, I think you said that you have 300 applicants waiting
300
at the moment. And so how many do you have a target for the amount of donations you're hoping to come in? Is there a bottleneck in that you have these 300 applications? You'd love to maybe start 90% of them into their businesses, but there isn't the funds there, or what's the situation?
We would love to have $60,000 sitting in our bank account. In fact, Richard Kerridge and I both said to each other just the other week, if we were millionaires, which we're not, we would be over there twice a year, every year.
Right.
Because there's such a need. So the 300 applicants who are in Gwanda, Bait Bridge and Bulawayo in Zimbabwe have been waiting for 2 years for their loans. So we can only give what we raise, and we can only ask them to be patient. And that hopefully, as we continue to work in raising funds, that we will be able to furnish them with their loan in time. But we just ask them to be patient. We would love to have the funds drop down by, gifts of $20,000, $40,000, $60,000 at a time. And that would satisfy those 100, 200, 300 applicants.
Yeah.
And that's just Zimbabwe. We're not talking even Malawi or Zambia or Tanzania or Uganda. This program could be operated anywhere in the third world, Indonesia, Pakistan, India.
Yeah, and you look at the story of the butchers, and you look at the impact that's having on not only the lady running that business, but her family, the employees, and the community in general. That's one story. So you have 300 potential stories like that waiting. So, but all it is getting the funding in order to activate those businesses.
That's right.
So look, anyone talking to the camera, if you're able, then please make a donation. Let's give the website again.
Yeah, it's libertyworldmissions.org.au.
Hey Lane, I'm going to put you on the spot here.
Oh, no. Okay.
So $300 is a good amount for 150 each.
150 each.
150 each.
Looks like we're doing it.
Let's do a donation, yeah?
Looks like we're doing it.
All right, cool. So Assertive Media is going to do.
Oh, thank you.
Let's do tradie marketing too. Tradie marketing and Assertive Media. We're gonna do one donation of 300 between us. That's the least we can do. And how do we hear about these stories? Because I know when people give, they also love to hear about the stories and the impact that they're contributing to.
Yes.
Is that same website, or do we go to the ABC website?
The website will have newsletters. We have a newsletter that comes out every time we go over. Richard sets up a newsletter, which will be a report on our last mission. And that's why we have photos. We take photos of all the businesses and we give them a short a brief overview of what they've achieved from what we've seen as we land on the ground there, which we've done last time we've been there. And Richard has been back since, more than I actually. So this is my 7th trip, but it's his 20th, I think. So he will take photographs of the businesses and we'll meet them on the ground, and we'll then do a write-up, and that'll be a report.
I'm going to jump in if I could. I know it would be remiss of me not to say anything about this. Have you thought about doing video?
Actually, I'm not a great tech guy or a media guy.
Yep.
I tend to do it like this person to person,
Yep.
Calling my friends and appealing to them. But I think it'd be great to do that.
Yeah.
Look, I think what you're alluding to is if you get some footage over there, is this what you're saying? Yeah. If you get some footage over there, then feel free to send it to us, and we can, put it together into a little short film doco thing, and love to support you in any way we can. And we haven't offered this to anyone else.
No.
Sorry to everyone else, but this is for some reason this is what you're doing is obviously so important and touching, and because we love business as well. And love the fact that you're equipping and entrepreneurs over in Africa, and maybe we'll get funding one day to come over and do a doco for you.
Oh, I'd love you to, guys. That'd be great. It'd be great to have you over there. It is an adventure, I must admit. The people are lovely. They really are. And they're very receptive to any kindness that they can receive. They're very appreciative of it all. And they're optimistic. They're positive people, despite their conditions. And they just want to work. They want an opportunity to start using from their own bootstraps to make a business for themselves and to feed their kids. That's what they want. And as my wife says, we all want to feed our children. Every mother wants to. It's natural instinct, right? And she'll do anything she can. And there are unfortunate ways that they have to sometimes feed their children too. And we want to talk to them, to those women on the streets, and get them to change what they're doing into a legitimate business. And they're working with dignity and honour in the work they're doing.
That's what I love about the loan, like giving the loan instead of charity. That it protects their dignity and empowers them.
That's right. That's what they want.
That's fantastic. Thanks so much for coming on to Game Plan for Good. And
Thank you so much.
Thank you, Lane, for co-hosting. Sorry, I forgot to introduce you earlier. I realised no one knows that Lane's here. But
it's all good.
But yeah, thank you so much, and we wish you all the best. And we look forward to hearing about how it all goes. And how you guys are just continuing to do your great work. And thank you.
Thank you so much. I appreciate it very much.
Thank you for watching Game Plan for Good. Stay connected with us on social media to discover more game-changing stories and gain valuable business insights. All of our episodes are recorded in our Assertive Media studio in Melbourne.